Welcome back to Elements of Art. I'm Natasha, and we're about to continue studying the element of form. However, we're taking a twist by diving into the interesting world of Dadaism and studying the artists Hans Arp and Marcel Duchamp. Have you ever heard of them? Well, they are two well-known 3D artists. We'll look into how these master artists harness the element of form to craft their intriguing and evocative sculptures. For a smoother journey, a guide has been provided in the PDF to assist you in your evaluations. In today's lesson, we'll explore the works of sculptural artists Hans Arp and Marcel Duchamp. We'll examine their use of form and see how it added depth and interest to their pieces. By comparing and contrasting their work, we'll uncover the unique ways form define their art. Arp and Duchamp were two pioneering artists who both used the element of form brilliantly in their artwork. When we look at Arp's work, we see smooth, flowing forms. But what drove this fluidity? Duchamp's pieces, on the other hand, challenge and question our views on what form and art is. What makes his approach so groundbreaking? By exploring their art, we will gain a clearer insight into their use of form and their unique visions. Hans Arp, 1886 to 1966, was raised in a Franco-German environment. His early exposure to various art forms, including poetry and abstract art, heavily influenced his own artistic voice. Arp was fascinated by the randomness and unpredictability of nature. He often found ways to use chance in the creation of his art, such as dropping pieces of paper onto a surface and arranging them as they landed. Arp was associated with the Dada movement, which emerged in reaction to the horrors of World War I. Dadaists rejected the societal structures they believed led to war. As a reflection of this, Arp's art often broke away from traditional styles, challenging usual art ideas. Let's analyze a few of the sculptures of Hans Arp. I've selected 4 of his pieces for us to explore. Once we've looked at all 4 sculptures, you can go to the PDF where you'll find questions designed to deepen your understanding of his approach to form. Arp often favored smooth, organic shapes that seemed to flow and morph into one another, creating a sense of unity and fluidity. In Impish Fruit, these forms are both abstract and playful. They don't strictly replicate nature, but are inspired by it, resulting in artwork that evokes feelings and memories more than direct representation. Impish Fruit thrives on simplicity. There aren't loads of details. Instead, Arp used pure form to convey the emotion and meaning. While Arp's piece is abstract, are there elements that seem familiar or reminiscent of real-world objects? How does the title, Impish Fruit, influence your interpretation? Does the sculpture evoke any particular emotions in you? How do you think Arp's use of form contributes to these emotions? This next work is one of Arp's sculptures that epitomizes his style of soft, abstracted forms. Its title translates to Cloud Bowl, and as the name suggests, it possesses organic fluid forms resembling clouds. Made from marble, this sculpture captures a sense of lightness and flow, which is quite a feat considering the weight and solidity of the material. How does the form in this work differ from more traditional forms typically seen in marble sculptures? If you were tasked to position this sculpture in a particular setting or environment, where would it be and why? Arp's constellation according to the laws of chance is a celebration of unpredictability and abstraction. Through use of form, the work challenges viewers to find meaning in chaos. It's a testament to the Dada movement's commitment to reinventing art and its methods of creation. The spaces between the forms create a rhythm that gives the piece visual harmony despite the randomness. This abstract work allows for multiple interpretations and allows each viewer to see or feel something different. How do the simple raised forms contrast with the flat black shapes in the work? Do you see any way in which the concept of chance could have played a role in this composition? Arp's sculptures often invite touch, even if just in your imagination. The smooth, polished form of pagoda fruit appears soft. The uncomplicated form allows the viewer to again engage with the sculpture without getting lost in the details. The title Pagoda Fruit combines the idea of a pagoda, a distinctive multi-tiered tower often found in Asia symbolizing peace, with that of fruit, making the sculpture's name both unexpected and captivating. Does the form suggest movement or stillness? And how does this influence your interpretation? How does the title, Pagoda Fruit, influence or shape your perception and understanding of the sculpture? There's a graphic organizer in your lesson notes that will allow you to write down your observations about each of Hans Arp's artworks we focused on. Pause the video and take a moment to reflect. Marcel Duchamp, 1887 to 1968, grew up in an artistic French family. His early interactions with both Impressionist and Cubist movements impacted his revolutionary approach to art. Duchamp was driven by the idea of challenging conventional artistic values. He introduced the concept of the ready-made, everyday objects presented as art, pushing boundaries on what can be considered art. Duchamp was another key player in the Dada movement, which challenged traditional norms and values. Duchamp viewed his work as fitting with the Dada movement in it being anti-art, aiming to question the very definition of art. Now let's evaluate Duchamp's found object art. I've chosen 4 of his notable ready-mades for us to explore. After we've discussed the 4 pieces collectively, you'll fill in your responses to my questions in the PDF. Fountain is among the most iconic and controversial artworks of the 20th century. It is a porcelain urinal that is not transformed or sculpted in any traditional sense. Its form remains just as it was manufactured, only turned 90 degrees with the name R. Mutt written on it. Duchamp directly challenged the very definition of art. It posed a critical question. Must art be a unique creation made by the hand of an artist? Or can it be a pre-created everyday object chosen by an artist? How does the reorientation of the urinal's form, turning it upside down, affect its recognition as an everyday object? Consider the play of light on the urinal's form. How do its curves, shadows, and reflections affect its aesthetic qualities? Bottle rack is a utilitarian object designed for the drying of bottles. Its form follows function, with metal spokes extending outward to hold bottles. By selecting this as an artwork, Duchamp elevates its functional design into the realm of aesthetics, inviting viewers to appreciate its form outside of its intended use. The bottle rack's form possesses radial symmetry, with its spokes evenly distributed in a circular pattern. This repetition can be visually appreciated, similar to how one might appreciate patterns in nature. How does the absence of bottles on the drying rack influence your interpretation of the piece's form and meaning? Considering its form, How does the bottle rack challenge or expand your definition of what can be considered art? The merging of two familiar objects, a bicycle wheel and a stool, into a singular piece disrupts our typical associations with both. By connecting them, Duchamp creates a new form that disallows both components to be functional, compelling viewers to view the piece in terms of overall form and not function. Consider the contrast between the circular form of the wheel and the linear, angular form of the stool. How do these differences contribute to the piece? Does the context of the museum setting change your perception of the artwork? The comb, like many ready-mades, was a commercially produced item. It was designed for a specific function, grooming. The material is cold, hard steel, and its form is simple, streamlined, and efficient, with straight lines and evenly spaced teeth. The comb's teeth create a rhythmic pattern of negative spaces, which one pays more attention to when viewing it as an art object. By presenting this as art, Duchamp elevated the comb's everyday form. Does the shift of the comb from a grooming tool to an artwork impact your understanding of its form and purpose? How does the steel construction of the comb influence your perception of the piece, especially considering the industrial aspect of steel? There's a graphic organizer in your lesson notes designed for you to record your observations about each of Duchamp's pieces we've examined. Pause the video and take a moment to reflect. Hans Arp and Marcel Duchamp were both key players in the Dada art movement. Arp used simple forms and chance to showcase nature's random side, and Duchamp used everyday items as art to challenge what art really was. Both used forms in new and unique ways, showcasing the Dada movement's aim to do things differently in art. Let's do a side-by-side comparison of a work by Arp and a work by Duchamp. Hans Arp's cloud bowl and Marcel Duchamp's fountain are both, in essence, vessels. These vessel forms, however, serve different symbolic and functional purposes in each artwork. Arp's cloud bowl holds beauty derived from its form, material, and the skill evident in its creation. It's meant to be appreciated for its soft form and the emotions it evokes. As a piece of 3D sculpture, it interacts with its surroundings in a traditional way, inviting viewers to move around it. The aesthetic of Duchamp's fountain is not rooted in beauty by any means, but in boldness. The artwork's impact comes from its context and the conversation it encourages. The urinal sits flat on a table instead of hanging on a wall. This unusual setup helps viewers rethink their ideas about art and everyday items. In what ways do both artworks explore the relationship between form and function? What else do you see in the use of form in these works by Arp and Duchamp? Are there any similarities or differences we haven't mentioned? Make sure to pause and note down your observations in the PDF. Let's do one more side-by-side comparison of an Arp and Duchamp work. Both pagoda fruit and bicycle wheel are vertically aligned, giving a sense of stature. Additionally, both are compound in nature, meaning they're composed of multiple components or elements. Duchamp's work combines the bicycle wheel and stool, while Arp's sculpture consists of multiple interconnected organic forms. Arp's work leans toward the organic and abstract. It is made up of fluid forms that channel natural biological forms. Creating it required traditional sculpting techniques and materials. Duchamp's bicycle wheel is a ready-made piece, combining a bicycle wheel and a stool, immediately recognizable objects taken from everyday life. The more mechanically made components, point to a different kind of artistic process, focused on selection and assembly rather than crafting. Given that both works are compound, do you believe the components in each work harmonize with one another, or do they stand in contrast? Overall, do you see any similarities in these differently formed works by Arp and Duchamp other than their vertical alignment and compound structure? Pause the video and write down your observations in the PDF. Hans Arp and Marcel Duchamp both made significant statements with their use of abstraction and concept in art. Arp's organic forms and playful shapes broke free from traditional representations, while Duchamp's ready-mades and conceptual pieces challenged the very definition of art. Despite working around the same time and within the same movement, Dada, the works of Hans Arp and Marcel Duchamp show us very different uses of form, don't they? Arp's application of natural curved forms make you feel like you're in a different world, and Duchamp's use of ready-mades make you question what art and form really are. I encourage you to learn more about three-dimensional art, sculpture artists, and Dada. And remember, art is all around you.